I have been immersed in the community of women my whole 38 years of life. Growing up in New York City in the 1980s and 90s, I thought my mother was Superwoman. I saw her do it all, cooking, cleaning, to co-running a restaurant business with my father. Because I was a little girl, the youngest in the family, I was always by her side, learning from her and listening to things like, Claudia, when you grow up, to own your independence, you have to own your business. As you can imagine, I did not understand that women, had no idea that women were not as competent as men. There was no such thing. And I had big dreams of being a superhero businesswoman just like Mom. I also went to an all-girls high school on the Upper East Side of New York, followed by Smith College, an all-women's college. And then with that entrepreneurial bug planted inside of me at a young age, I quickly, right out of college, started a women's entertainment media company. Proudly became an entrepreneur. It was called S.H.E, and we created girls' night out shopping parties across America. And we served fashion, beauty, and fun for women and their girlfriends. And it was super successful at the time because this was the era of Sex and the City, you know, where women just craved closets and wardrobes like Carrie Bradshaw of Sex and the City. And there was a huge demand for chick lit and chick flicks. And like the women in these movies and in these books, I too invested my emotional energy in men, in my social plans, in the way that I looked, in the way that I dressed, but also very much in my professional success. Because I had to do it all, like Mom. I had to persevere and even become more successful because her and my father gave me the means to do so. So the pressure was on very strong. But even though I was immersed in women's everything, it wasn't until I was 35 years old that I truly stepped into the consciousness of what it means to be a woman in today's world. So what do I mean about that? At that time, as a female entrepreneur, I was getting invited more and more to women's events where women's challenges like work-life balance were being brought up more and more. And because of what I was going through with all the stress in my life, I became fascinated with learning about the state of women in this country and in the world. And I immersed myself in everything that I could. It's as if the Smith College feminist in me woke back up, and I just wanted to learn everything about this women's empowerment topic that I kept on hearing about. I read books like Half the Sky that taught me the greatest atrocities that women face today are forced prostitution, sex trafficking, maternal mortality, gender-based violence. Catalyst, nonprofit organizations, taught me the startling numbers of women in the workplace and business. And Sheryl Sandberg's famous speech to Barnard students a few years ago drove home the point that the promise of equality is not equality. So here's what I learned. It was incredibly startling, shocking, and appalling. And keep in mind that these numbers are just from a few years ago. For example, in the United States, women make up only 3% of Fortune 500 CEOs. That 65% of American women and girls have eating disorders. And that globally in the world, women do 66% of the world's work, but only earn 10% of the world's income and own 1% of the world's property. And that every 90 seconds, a woman dies during childbirth or pregnancy. So these numbers really deeply affected me and offended me at this time. And though I was understanding and learning this really negative, ugly reality, on the other hand, I was noticing really positive trends, really exciting trends. I was seeing, for example, a rise in famous women that were standing up for women's issues. For example, Diane von Furstenberg, a famous fashion designer. But who knew that her philanthropy work was largely devoted to women's causes? Or Gina Davis, an actress. I love A League of Their Own. That was such a great movie. So Gina, she started an institute that's all about getting more female, strong characters in entertainment programming, targeting young children 11 and under. And then Christy Turlington, a model, beautiful model, she started a nonprofit and a documentary to drive awareness for maternal health. So I was noticing all of these incredible trends, and also even more non-famous women, unknown women that were starting organizations promoting women's causes. And I noticed also a huge rise in documentaries, social movements, campaigns, again, tackling all very important topics. So I thought to myself, you know, there are so many incredible women standing up for women's causes and organizations, but their stories aren't being shared in mainstream TV shows, magazines, websites, media outlets. And in fact, there was a dire lack of female role models in general in mainstream media. So at that point, the aha moment hit me. It hit me that I would have a career change and I would start a new kind of women's media and education company that essentially would do a few things: drive tons of awareness to these women, to these organizations, and start talking about all this important work that was being done in a very positive, beautiful, fashionable light. So the last 3 years of my life have been devoted to this work. You can call me an anthropologist of women, if you will. To date, I have interviewed 212 remarkable women, role models, exchanged over 2,000 questions and answers across 30 topics for women, ranging from leadership to self-care to self-confidence. I've interviewed women from all industries, leading fashion like Tory Burch, Fortune 500 companies like Susan Sabat of American Express, to women in humanitarian work like Zainab Salbi, who founded Women for Women International. And between my company and myself, we have promoted and collaborated with countless women-centric conferences, organizations, initiatives that are promoting and doing great work for women. And I have found also that in this robust women's empowerment landscape, that there are a growing number of groups, or movements, if you will, that are literally promoting causes in every sector of the women's space. And this doesn't even show you all the topics, but we're finding movements empowering women in technology, in education, in financial literacy. And within these sectors, there are subsectors. So it's a hugely robust growing space. And in the last few years, I've also been monitoring headlines and news on women in the mainstream media. And it's not shocking that, of course, the few stories that have gotten big headlines and awareness are the most controversial ones, like Anne-Marie Slaughter's famous "Why Still Women Can't Have It All" piece, or Marissa Mayer's perception of work-life balance, or, of course, the lean-in topic, the debate on female leadership aspirations. And finally, I have conversed with thousands of women across all life stages through my website and through a conference that we've created called S.H.E Summit Week, to hear about what women on the ground, what women are going through, struggling with, whether you're in college, in the middle of your career, and just wherever you are in your life, we've been getting feedback. So after these several years of work, here's what I found. We are living in a new era of a women's movement. It is in full effect. Now, this revolution is not just an external one. For all the evidence that I have shared, the aggregate of all the women's empowerment movements that are taking place right now, but 2013 has been the most exciting year yet for women. In February, Eve Ensler's 1 Billion Rising, we got 1 billion women to rise and dance fighting against violence for women and girls. One woman's book literally resuscitated mainstream conversation on modern feminism. And then one young girl, Pakistani girl, has become an international symbol for girls' rights. And even recently, our women in the Senate were credited by many for resolving the government shutdown. So it's been a really exciting year for women. And of course, for the first time ever in American history, we actually have a formidable potential presidential candidate for 2016, Hillary Clinton. Woo! But here's the thing about this revolution. It's not just an external one. I believe that it's an internal one also, one happening in the minds of women. I love this deodorant ad because it literally expresses the incessant self-talk that happens in a woman's mind practically all the time, because we're juggling so many things. And because women today, because we were raised being told that we can do it all, we can do anything that we want, we believe that we have to do it all. And so I believe that the demands, the aspirations, the expectations that women take on today are more extreme than ever. And through my personal experience and through talking to all these women, I feel that, one thing that I found is that there are common negative patterns in mental self-talk of women, and that is we have such high pressure to be perfect. We are very self-critical. We seek validation from others, and we never feel like we're doing enough. So there is an internal revolution that is a part of this as well. So earlier this year, Sheryl Sandberg said that the feminist revolution had stalled. She's not wrong. Let's just do a quick review of women in history. The first wave of feminism It was the women's suffrage movement, where women finally got the right to vote in 1920. The second wave, we had amazing women like Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem, who stood up and fought for socioeconomic equality for women. Then we had Riot Girl, the Anita Hill case, and the vagina monologues that were the hallmarks of the third wave of feminism, challenging gender norms and sexual identity. But the fourth wave, what's happening now? I call the revolution today the She Revolution. She stands for She Helps Empower, because this is not just a revolution that's about empowering women. It's a revolution about empowering the world. The world needs women to lead right now more than ever in history, and women are being recognized as a force like never before in history. It is noted that women make up the third billion, a market segment large enough to rival China or India. That women are the largest untapped reservoir of talent in the world. And that feminine values and traits are considered in the new innovation, the new form of innovation. This revolution is also different than others before us, because it's not just a revolution about women fighting for women. It's also about involving the men, and more corporations, and more political leaders, media, advertising, to all invest in women. So it takes a collaborative force. So my call to men is that we need more male role models championing women, especially male leaders. When Warren Buffett said earlier this year that he was bullish on women, guess what? Traditional institutions and male CEOs paid attention to that. So that's really important. For corporations, if you employ women, please invest in programming and women's initiatives that will get more women into the C-suite, into the boardrooms, especially in the engineering, technology, science, finance fields, because I can't tell you the number of women that have expressed to me how excluded they feel in those male-dominated segments. And political leaders, please put women on the agenda, involve them, prioritize them. And media, as you create content out there in the world that addresses audiences, you have such a powerful microphone to reach women and men. So be more cognizant of including female role models in your content, because remember, we cannot be what we can't see. That's one of my favorite quotes. So media is really important. And advertisers, if you have products and services that market to women, the thing to do is to invest your marketing dollars in an area of her lifestyle that aligns with your core values. That's how to win loyal customers, I believe, for brands. And finally, my call to women. Recognize and realize where you are in history of womankind, and realize that we're also fighting an internal revolution. Cultivate positive habits. In whatever dream that you are pursuing, and I hope you make it a big one, cultivate positive habits in your life, celebrate the achievements that you are getting done, and champion women along the way. So everything has led to this moment, and in this momentum that is gaining traction, we have to move forward and finish what prior movements have started. But the She Revolution is also in danger of stalling if we don't get full participation from women, from men, from corporations, from governments, from media, from advertisers, from everyone, to collaboratively achieve gender equality in all sectors, which I ultimately believe will lead to a more peaceful, sustainable, inclusive, and economically thriving world. So please, let us step into this new consciousness and drive this She Revolution to empower today's generation of women and girls so they can improve the world alongside the men. Thank you.